We don't know who wrote the letter to the Hebrews, but it certainly wasn't Paul. Its language and thought world are quite different from anything found in the Pauline letters. But quite different doesn't mean totally different. In the text before us, the author stresses the obedience of Christ and urges the reader to obey Christ just as Christ obeyed his Father in submitting to the divine plan, which included his death on the cross. Now, at the heart of biblical religion, there lies the mystery of a liberating obedience, which can seem strange. For the Bible, we can be set free only if we tie ourselves down. For ancient Israel, the question was, how can we, in our own time and place, come forth from our own Egypt? In times past, our ancestors came forth from the land of Egypt, from slavery, by the grand intervention of God. But what about us now, who also face in different ways the fact of slavery, and who, left to our own devices, can do nothing about it? We can't set ourselves free. We too need God to do it. The answer to which ancient Israel came was brilliantly original. God has given us the Torah, a law which we must obey if we are to come forth from our Egypt, break free from our own slavery. Insofar as I obey God's law, listen to what God is saying and act upon what I hear, then I can find freedom. Then I can experience the Exodus, which is not once upon a time, but which is here and now for those who obey. The letter to the Hebrews presents Jesus as the one who supremely listens to God. It's true that Jesus speaks to God, offering up prayer and entreaty to the one who had the power to save him out of death. More important than his prayer and entreaty, however, was his obedience, his willingness to say yes to God's call, even though it would cost him his life. The account of Christ's temptations in the desert that we find in the Gospels makes very clear the contrast between the disobedience of ancient Israel in the desert and the obedience of Jesus in the desert. That obedience sets Jesus free from the bondage of death, leads him on the Exodus journey of Easter. Now here we come close to Paul's understanding of the two Adams. The first Adam sinned by disobedience in the garden. In trying to be God and refusing to be son, the first Adam became a slave. The second Adam, Jesus, freely accepted to be son and submitted perfectly to the Father's plan. Therefore, he was freed by the Father's love from the slavery of death and raised to the Father's right hand, where he reigns as the Son for all eternity. In the first Adam, the Son becomes a slave. In the second Adam, the slave becomes the Son. Now, the Father's plan includes us. The all-merciful God wants us to obey Jesus, to listen to his voice, so that we too can come forth from whatever Egypt holds us in its grasp, even the Egypt of death. The obedience is not a form of slavery. In fact, it becomes a liberation. Here again we strike the paradox at the heart of biblical religion. Unless we are willing to tie ourselves down, we'll never be free. And any freedom that excludes obedience, in particular obedience to Jesus, will sooner or later become a new kind of slavery. To exclude obedience is to remain imprisoned in the death-dealing world of pride. To accept a liberating obedience requires humility, of which the letter to the Hebrews speaks when it says that Christ submitted humbly. Now, because of that humility, Jesus wasn't humiliated, but was raised to glory in the moment of Easter. Part of the paradox of an obedience that liberates is therefore a humility that glorifies the human being. That was the way of Jesus crucified and risen. And according to Hebrews, it's the way for every human being looking for true freedom beyond the many false freedoms of this world.